if you give people information that nobody else has because you understand them better, then they actually consume the information, which leads awareness to you, which allows them to consider you when they're ready to buy something. And so like, it's really that simple, but companies think about things too transactionally to think that helping someone would eventually lead them to buying the product because they're too concerned with just trying to sell the product. Instead of fighting at the bottom, I'm just gonna win at the top. So it's not like, oh, this much RAM or like this security feature or different things like that. It's like, here's what you can do with it. And we do that in a variety of different ways, but I just thought it was, I wanted to get that point in because I think it can help a lot of people if they think about how to communicate with their customers in times where people aren't in buy mode, because I think that people ignore that. The farther you go up, the better it works, in my view. You're farther away from your product, therefore farther away from selfish behavior. And so the step is to analyze all of their data and just, I don't have any opinions on it. It's like, here's your data. You're spending all of this money, you're doing these things, and this is how much customers you're getting, and this is how much it's costing you. And based on our benchmarks of looking at a bunch of companies, including the ones that we work with, like, you're not doing very good. Like, there's a lot of opportunities to do better. In order to do it better, you need to first change the way that you think about marketing. You need to change from a lead gen model to a demand generation model or a brand demand model or whatever you want to call it. You need to get out of the lead gen mindset. And then the next thing that you need to do is you need to change the metrics that you score your marketing team on. If a company really was struggling to do this and they really wanted to do it, my recommendation for them would to be to have a separate team that's 4 people that understands customers deeply, has a subject matter expert, has all of the resources that they need to go and do stuff, and they're free from all of the metrics inside of a company, and all they need to focus on is how do we deliver things that people love, that people consume, that our audience grows. The problem is that most marketers are not set in the side and therefore get pulled into all the transactional stuff, and the transactional stuff will always take priority over that, even though that's more effective. There's a huge variable in that bucket of that, like, you actually have to be good in order for it to work. Just because you put 4 people over there and you say, hey team, go do brand, doesn't mean that it's going to work. I think a lot of people right now are confused about the things that actually build brand. Companies will go out and experiment with a podcast, but measure it against leads, and they won't see the LinkedIn DM that came in that said this thing was great, can you keep going? They don't look at those indicators. It's hard for me to give someone tangible about, like, this is the stuff to look for. And so, like, I have seen this in Facebook 2012 trying to sell stuff. And you know what I mean? So I've just, like, seen the different things before, and when it happened on LinkedIn, it's very obvious. And when you start to post 7 episodes of a podcast, and I'm getting way more LinkedIn DMs saying, hey, I listened to your podcast, this is amazing, keep going, like, can you talk about this? Like, those signals are the things that I'm looking for. They don't show up in Salesforce, they don't show up in an attribution report, the CEO never sees it. It's weird because we started talking about, like, the human element. The emotional side gives you a lot of qualitative feedback that predicts the business side, in my experience. Demand is creating a desire to have an affinity or to otherwise want to purchase your product in the eyes of your target buyer. It's the desire. And then because if that definition was taken the wrong way, you would just try and shove people into, like, demos or like bunch of product stuff or different things like that. And so there's a level of there's a sense that you need to get about how to actually execute that in a way that matches how the buyer wants to get to the desire. The amount of options that a consumer has are growing, right? Like, direct to consumer brands, you can get 1 million t-shirts, and before it was just like Nike or whatever was at the store. Right. So you got 1 million options, and products are becoming, even like complex B2B products are converging on themselves. So they're, like, not that much different between, like, a core category. And so it comes down to which brand do I prefer and do I have affinity for? And that'll, as development cycles keep happening in SaaS, I think it will continue. The products will become less and less different, and brand will become more and more important. Our objective is to fundamentally change how B2B companies do marketing. And that is a infinite game, which is cool.
In this lecture of the Demand Generation Masterclass, Chris shared how important it is to communicate with your customers when they are in buy mode. Get away from your lead generation mindset and start generating demand. If you missed any of the previous lectures, you have the playlist right here to watch them all. And if you like this content, subscribe and get more of it. It's free.